should be able to, because you got to be able to see the minutes, right? So I mean, it's on the agenda. Anybody should be able to see it unless it's confidential.
The only things that would be considered confidential that nobody could. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the school board meeting for January 12th, 2021. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Okay, welcome, everyone. So for today's meeting, we're going to have the invocation done by Angel Fonseca, Santiago. Our Pledge of Allegiance will be done by Anthony Cook, Coordinator of College and Career Counseling. Our national anthem will be done via video by our Toho High School Choir under the direction of Janelle Burge. Our mission statement will be read by Teresa Brady, Curriculum Resource Teacher, and our translation services will be done by Belinda Reyes, Executive Director of Multicultural Services. Let's go ahead and get started with our invocation.
Please join me as we pray. Our Heavenly Father, we come before you at this very moment, grateful for your blessings and the laws you have bestowed upon each and every one of us. At this moment, Father God, we ask you for this school board meeting, for the leadership of this country, this county, and this community, Father God. We ask that you guide us with your wisdom in every decision that we make for the betterment of our students, our teachers, our staff, and our leadership. And as always, Father God, we ask you for your protection, for your guidance in every step along the way, that we maintain unity, for no success can be achieved without unity. For us to achieve success for our students, we ask for your wisdom, your guidance, your protection for our students, our staff, and the leadership of this community. We give you thanks for all your wonderful blessings and everything you have in store for us. In the name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have, however, some talented kids, yeah.
Someone can step up
to
and
do
sing the
that.
song. We all know it.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the guns bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled
That was phenomenal.
Amazing.
Got emotional. I'm telling just out of the blue.
Good evening to all board members, Dr. Pace, and all attendees. At this time, I would like to read the mission statement. Inspiring all learners to reach their highest potential as responsible, productive citizens.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Belinda Reyes, and I am here to provide translation services. Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Belinda Reyes y estoy aquí para proveer servicios de traducción.
Now is the time in our meeting where our board members will give some positive comments. We always start over on the left. Let's go ahead and start on the right this time to give it a change for 2021.
Me want you.
Yes, we'll go ahead and start with you, Mr. Bass.
Well, first I want to thank everyone for attending tonight, and I'm forever the optimist, and I'm looking forward for a very positive 2021. I'm glad 2020 is behind us, and I'm really looking forward. God bless all you educators and guidance counselors and parents who are migrating all your seniors through FAFSA and the college applications. I have a senior at home. Good Lord, it's been quite the experience, but we have such a great support. It's just unbelievable, and looking forward to our meeting, our community conversation that we're all going to be attending. I think mine's scheduled on the 28th at Toho. I'm looking forward to that. And I had a couple parental issues, not parental issues, but some issues that some parents were having, and I want to thank the staff and all of the support that we have here for stepping in and really helping us do that. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Well, welcome back, everyone. I agree as an optimist. I look forward to everyone coming back. Looking forward to great things in 2021, not just with schools, but with our community in general. And looking forward to the day that we can start to, breathe easy again. Without a mask and a little bit of more personal touch, and I look forward to seeing the room packed and just being able to interact with everyone on a more personal level than we have been able to under these conditions. I hope that everyone is well and looking forward to just getting to know everyone. Thank you.
Mr. Arguello, will you my time?
Thank you. Well, Happy New Year and congratulations again to our Osceola Cowboys. I know we went to state, and I know Deborah Pace and the folks, went out there and we got, they're still champions in our heart. So, again, they made us proud and just that's what it's about. It's about everyone looking forward to a new year, 2021. Let's kind of forget what happened in the past. We had Osceola delegation meetings. We talked to our state senators, our state representatives, and they know the issues that the education is having. They're not unique to Osceola County, so that's a benefit. So it's not like we told the senators, this is only what Osceola wants. It's a statewide concern with COVID and how do we adjust, moving forward. So I think that we're going to have a little bit more receptive legislature, hopefully, in the state level this year.
Thank you. And I just want to go ahead and say Happy New Year, of course, echoing the sentiments of the other board members. I do look forward to a productive meeting today and a productive 2021. Dr. Pace, did you want to add anything?
Just a couple of things quickly, Ms. Castillo. First of all, I want to share that I was able to present on behalf of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society this honor for the School District of Osceola County and the Hero Award. Despite COVID last spring and school closures, our elementary, middle, and high schools came together to raise a considerable amount of money, over $50,000, for the local Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. The great thing about this organization is that dollars raised here stay here to support the needs of individuals in our community, both children and adults, who are suffering from leukemia and lymphoma. So we're excited about this year's campaign. It will again be in Kindness Week in February, so look forward to more information there. And board members, I rarely make personal comments and always want to respect my role as a professional, but I do want to take this opportunity to say a tremendous thank you to our principals, our teachers, our counselors, everybody out there in the community that has helped to guide our students and our children in this community through the events of the last week. I know that you share my belief in that at a time like this, we cannot underestimate the importance and the value of a high-quality public education system, to make sure that we are providing our children opportunities to learn to be critical thinkers, critical readers, critical problem solvers, because as we move forward, that truly is the stalwart of a democracy that we all have known to come and love and enjoy and want to make sure that we maintain as we move forward. So I just want to say, I know that that's been sensitive, I know that that's been challenging, I know that that's been difficult, but our adults in this community, particularly in our schools, have been there for our children, and we want to pledge to continue to be there for them.
Absolutely. Well said, Dr. Pace. So the next item on the agenda is the proclamation for Literacy Week, and I believe Ms. Brady is going to come back to the podium for that.
Good evening once again. Very soon, we will feel the excitement of Literacy Week and the many engaging activities that it offers to our students. The theme of this year's Literacy Week is Humanity Tells a Story, What is Your Chapter? Throughout the week, students will have a chance to read about topics related to humanity. They will write about the next chapter of their lives, talk about their contribution to making the world a kinder place, and solve problems that they might encounter during their lifetime. You never know when one of these lessons may engage a reluctant reader or motivate a student to read more rigorous text to satisfy their thirst for knowledge. At this time, I will read the proclamation, Celebration Literacy Week, Florida. Whereas the school district of Osceola County, Florida, has the goal of guiding every student in the K-12 system to read at or above grade level and making literacy the priority of every citizen in Osceola County. And whereas change in the literacy culture of our schools will enable students to be successful in the 21st century from pre-kindergarten to post-secondary by raising expectations of teachers and students. And whereas involvement in literacy programs and projects is increased through school and community awareness of such programs. Whereas promoting the enjoyment of reading for all ages, children to adults, increases literacy rates. And whereas parents, families, neighbors, and mentors play a crucial role in helping children become successful, independent readers. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the school board of Osceola County hereby declare the week of January 25th through January 29th, Celebrate Literacy Week, Florida, this 12th day of January 2021. Thank you.
Or do we have a motion? Or any discussion? Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Bass,
And Mr. Arguello.
second by Mr. Arguello. All those in favor? Okay. Motion passes. Does anybody have any discussion? I think that's a really great subject. The Humanity Tells a Story, so I'm really excited to see what we do with that. Thank you so much. Right, next on the agenda, we have the presentation of the Black History Proclamation by Mr. Anthony Cook.
Good evening, board members and everybody else who's in attendance. February is nationally designated as a time to recognize and celebrate the contributions of African Americans to our nation's culture and history. Black Heritage Month is observed each year during the month of February, and today, as a district, we would like to recognize the significance of the month through a proclamation, the singing of the Black National Anthem, and may this be the first public comments to why we are doing this so early. As you may well know, on Monday is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I have been in works with Miami-Dade, Palm Beach County, and Broward County over the last 4 weeks in response to some of the social injustices, and our students, our Black and Brown students, wanted to know more of their options. we are starting our first annual HBCU virtual event. It will begin next Tuesday at 3 p.m. and it will run all the way through February 11th. We will expose our students to at least 32 options of HBCUs who are responsible for awarding 40% of bachelor's degrees to Black and brown students. In addition to that, there will be several virtual college knowledge experiences, and there will be other tours of schools down here in the Southeast as well as the Southwest to continue to educate our students and families on their options and how to get there. So, with no further ado, to present the proclamation, I would like to introduce Ayana Adam from Montego Bay, Jamaica, and Nicole Sanchez Vasquez from the Dominican Republic, who will be representing Tohoku Kalega High School.
Good evening. Today, on January 12, 2021, we, the Black Student Union Club members, read to you the Proclamation of Black Heritage Month, February 1st to February 28, 2021. Whereas February has been nationally designated as a time to recognize and celebrate the contributions of African Americans to our nation's culture and history. Whereas it is important to understand the different origins, culture, and heritage of all Americans. Whereas it is appropriate that all citizens reflect upon, cherish, and sustain the contributions that Black individuals, both past and present, have made to our nation. Maya Angelou, Lou Gossett Jr., Rosa Parks, Thurgood Marshall, and many more. Whereas such creative individuals have given of their very best so that we may be sustained and inspired during hard times and encouraged to celebrate and rejoice during happy times. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the School District of Osceola County, Florida, does hereby proclaim February as Black Heritage Month.
Have a motion to approve by Mr. Melendez, second by Mr. Bass. All those in favor? Thank you so much.
Thank you, students.
More.
Yeah, I think we had the national anthem.
I want to hear it
Oh,
singing.
Yeah, I was
I wanna hear
ready to
some
hear the
singing.
national anthem.
That's coming.
Let's get the business out of the way and get the entertainment going.
Yeah, that's coming. They've already done one, now for an encore. Next, I would like to introduce our students from AXA. I also want to point out the fact that I do talk about their ethnic background because it's important for me to display that Black and brown students come from a plethora of places. So, Ileana Chan, who is of Chinese and Hispanic descent, Rebecca Smith, who is of Crucian Italian descent, and Ruby Theodore, who is of Haitian descent, along with our choir director, Lisa Testa, will be responsible for the singing of our Black national anthem.
Let every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won.
Excellent job. Thank you. the next item on the agenda is the appointments and transfers. Dr. Pace?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the meeting. I do have two recommendations to bring before the board tonight. First off, I could invite Mrs. Katie Adams to the podium, please. Board members, it's my honor to recommend Mrs. Katie Adams to become the new principal at Reedy Creek Elementary School. She is currently the assistant principal at Pleasant Hill Elementary School, where she served since 2017. But she has a long history of leadership and service and commitment here in the school district of Osceola County, serving as assistant principal at Flora Ridge Elementary School, dean of students at Neptune Elementary School, head coach and intramural director, PE and health teacher, and reading and language arts teacher, also at Neptune Middle. She received her bachelor's degree from the University of Rhode Island and a master's degree in educational leadership from the American College of Education. I have had the opportunity to work with her for a long time and to see her learn and grow and develop as a leader, and I'm absolutely confident that she is prepared to lead the Reedy Creek Eagles to higher heights. So, congratulations with the board's approval, Kate.
Have a motion by Mr. Melendez, second by Mr. Arguello. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So, Ms. Adams, I'm sure you have something to say. Congratulations.
Thank you, board members, very much for this honor. I am truly moved. Dr. Pace, I have, like she said, a long history of here in Osceola County, and it started with Cindy Moen really cultivating a leadership quality for me, and I've been blessed with leaders like Sandy Lockery and Shelby Pagan and Gary Bressler, who have just prepared me for this next step, and I am excited to get to work down at Reedy Creek and hopefully grow more leaders for Osceola County. And of course, I can't not thank my husband, Ryan, and my daughter, Carolina, is here with us, and then my son likes to socially distance, so. But without them, everything is, here in Osceola County is family-based, and I am lucky to have my family by my side.
Thank you.
I came in early to had some business, and he walked by me and he tapped me on the shoulder. He said, "Just vote yes." And I said, "Hold on." He said, "You'll see." I assume that was what it was. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And then also, members of the board, I have one administrative transfer to bring forward. I am recommending the recommendation or transfer of Dr. Joni Miranda to become the new assistant principal at Pleasant Hill Elementary School.
I have a motion by Mr. Arguello, second by Mr. Bass. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, congratulations. Is Dr. Miranda here?
Yes, she's
not. Okay, well, congratulations, Dr. Miranda. Dr. Bass, I believe that you have our back to school update.
I do have a back to school update, and thank you very much, Madam Chair. I believe they're loading the PowerPoint as we speak. As you've all said, we are excited to be back in the new year, certainly continuing to face some unique challenges, but wanted to take this opportunity to provide an update for our board and also our community. We are very fortunate again tonight to have members of our back to school task force who have been dedicated partners since we began our work together at the beginning of June in terms of preparing for and planning for and continuing to implement school as we know it in light of a pandemic. So I believe we have Dr. Cadilia and Dr. Alexander, infectious disease specialists from Nemours Children's Hospital, as well as Ms. McCluskey, who has been a tremendous partner at the Osceola Department of Health. I've asked them to share a little bit of information with you about the current local impact on school-age children as we have seen COVID continue to spread throughout our community, particularly as a response to the holiday surge. It's real. Also, I know that there have been some questions about the virus mutation and how it impacts children differently and what we might be seeing about that locally. And of course, the big question on everybody's minds is vaccinations for COVID-19. As the board knows, I was an advocate last week with our legislative delegation to try to prioritize vaccinations for educators, particularly our 65 and older elders. What we are finding though is that the challenges of supply and demand are real as well, and it's very unpredictable what our folks have had. So in conversations with both the Department of Health and Orlando Health, at this time we're not able to set aside specific vaccines for our 65 and older elderly population, but we're going to continue to work toward that as an aim because we know we want to try to protect our staff as well as our students as best we can moving forward, and hopefully we can get the vaccination process moved up. So with that, Dr. Alexander, Dr. Cadilia, are you on the line?
Hi, so good evening. Dr. Pace, it's nice to hear your voice. Board members, all of you this evening, teachers, parents, and community members all gathered together. Happy New Year. And it's again a pleasure to reintroduce my colleagues, Dr. Khadija and Dr. Sandy. This has been, since we last spoke, a time of mixed blessings. On the downside, of course, the pandemic continues to rage in our country. At last count, today, there were reports of another 205,000 cases in the United States. We're now over 23 million cases with almost 380,000 fatalities. Looking ahead, by the 1st of April, the predictions are that we will have in the neighborhood of 570,000 fatalities due to COVID-19, so over 500,000. In Florida, we have not escaped this bullet in any way. There have been 24,000 deaths to date, with about almost 15,000 new cases reported yesterday. And predictions are that by the time we hit the 1st of April, we'll be in the range of 33,000 deaths. So in some ways, we're about 2/3 to where we are going to be by the 1st of April. The good news is that it looks like by many models, we are at peak disease activity now, and that things may be getting better in the weeks to come. The downside is that peak deaths normally follow peak disease activity by about 2 weeks. So unfortunately, we're still staring at a lot of tragic fatalities in the weeks to come. Children from the beginning of the pandemic have been and remain a bright spot, and for many reasons. And here there continues to be good news. In the state of Florida, over 150,000 children have now tested positive for COVID-19. There have only been 9 fatalities and about 1,300 hospitalizations. With the increased disease activity in the community, we are seeing in our own hospital and hospitals in the surrounding area an increase in admissions for children with acute COVID-19. However, most of those children have done very, very well. And in many cases, the COVID-19 is an incidental finding. They're here for surgery or for some other process, and COVID-19 is detected as an incidental finding. We are seeing and have seen probably 25 cases or so of this mysterious inflammatory syndrome that seems to follow COVID-19 in children somewhere between 2 and about 8 weeks. There's a lot of discussion on this in the pediatric world, and in fact, we're having a meeting tomorrow with our infectious disease colleagues across the city to discuss how best to manage these children. The good news, again, is that we have seen no fatalities. Many of these kids have been very, very sick with symptoms up to and including heart failure. However, I'm proud to say that so far, all of them have gone home. There is now an emerging literature in the medical literature now of how the schools have done. And this, again, is a bright spot. I think it's an indication of a very successful collaboration between our public schools, our academic centers, and our health departments. And what we're learning, talking with colleagues across the country, is that what we are doing here is as good or better than what's happening anywhere else in the country. The good news is that if transmission is occurring at school between students or from student to teacher or from teacher to student, it remains extraordinarily rare. Where are we seeing transmission? It's happening at home. And this is why we are now seeing a spike in activity where we're now seeing kids that have come off Christmas break, New Year's break, spent time with families. And so now we're seeing a lot of quarantine, a lot of isolation, a lot of COVID infection, a lot of positive tests. But again, this is not something that's happening at school. These are things that are happening at home. And I think this points out what we've discussed already many times, is that the schools are going to do as well as the community lets them do. And if people are cautious at home, if they're not gathering with families, kids are going to do great. If people pretend that family members aren't a risk to them, then kids are going to have trouble at school. And realize that there has been a change in the pandemic, because now the most common place that people acquire infection is from other family members. The challenge ahead of us now is that parents are bringing more kids back to school. Dr. Khadija, you've got some sense of this for what's going on. Can you tell us what you're hearing?
Hi, everybody. Again, thank you for the invitation, and thank you for continuing to have us come in and give you some information that we have that has helped us maneuver through the pandemic, and hopefully has been helpful for you as well. So as far as schools, yes, we are seeing a lot more kids going back to school across the nation, not everywhere. There are places that are still 100% virtual. Florida, obviously, we had to adjust in the beginning, but we do know that a lot more kids are going back. One of our neighboring counties I know has about 100,000 kids going out back to school. And yes, we are seeing increased numbers of cases, but again, it does still appear that most of these cases are being acquired outside of the schools. So the schools are still safe. I will add one tidbit, which I think is great. I think I've said it before. On my way to work today, and I've seen this before, I was beaming because as I was seeing the high schoolers cross the street in groups of 3, 4, 5, 10, all of them have their mask on. I really want to roll down my window and congratulate them. So the kids are doing it. They are wearing their masks. And so we have to be happy that they are doing, and it's working.
So I think if there's a take-home message here, if you need proof that masks, social distancing, cleaning the schools, quarantine and isolation, and a strong and very effective partnership with the health department works, you got it. You are looking at it. The challenge we've got is that we're all getting tired of this. And that what we've got to do now is realize that, in fact, we are moving into the most challenging part of this pandemic now. There is more disease now than there was back in March and April. So we are at a time when we cannot let down our guard. We're bringing more kids into the school, so we're making it more challenging. And this, again, only ups the ante on all the things that are so important, especially the masking, the social distancing, the hand washing, quarantine, isolation, and again, maintaining this wonderful partnership you have with the health department as you continue your contact tracing. The other thing that's now on the horizon is the COVID-19 vaccines. As many of you are aware, 2 vaccines were licensed in December, one for Moderna and one from Pfizer. And so the state is now getting about the business of immunizing people. Most of the healthcare providers in the state, certainly hospital-based, have been immunized. There's an effort now in place to get community-based providers immunized. When teachers and staff are going to be immunized is a tough question that is fraught with both logistics and politics. And I wish I had that answer for you. But what I can say is this, Dr. Khadija, Dr. Sandy, and I each had our second doses, our booster doses of vaccine about an hour and a half ago. We're still standing, and I can't encourage you strongly enough to consider seriously getting vaccinated. keep in mind that from what we know of the transmissibility of this pandemic, that if our goal is to return to the life as we know it, of going out without masks, going to restaurants, going to football games and basketball games, we need to have about 60% of the population immunized. If we don't hit 60%, the virus will continue to transmit in our community. So why did I get immunized? Why did Dr. Khadija, Dr. Sandy get immunized? We care about our families. We care about each other. We care strongly for the patients we serve. But every bit as important, we want to see our economy back up and running. We are all experiencing in our lives the economic devastation that this is bringing. I read in the paper this morning that the Rosen chains had to lay off more hotel workers. I see families from Disney that don't anticipate getting back to work until sometime in 2022. So getting vaccinated is perhaps not only a gesture of love for your family, but I think an important gesture of love for your community. And besides, I want to get rid of this. So we'll take some questions. And if people are interested, Dr. Pace, it may be worth even working together where we can create some questions and answers along with Bianca McCluskey and the health department to promote immunization among school teachers and staff.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alexander and Dr. Cadillo. I'll turn it over now to Ms. Castilla and the rest of the board.
Does anybody have any questions for our guests?
I just have one question, Madam Chair. How important is the second dose to be approximately 3 weeks apart from the first? Because I hear there's some talks recently about the logistics, about just give everyone that first shot. Who knows if the second one's going to come? So there may be a delay of when that second booster shot comes. So is the effectiveness, how much of it is impacted by not being within that 3-week window?
So this is an excellent question, and we'll be reminded that with Pfizer's vaccine, the recommendation is day 0 and day 21. For Moderna's vaccine, it's day 0 and day 28. It turns out that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have suggested that there's a window of about 4 days on either side. So in the case of the Pfizer vaccine, somewhere between day 17 and day 25. In the Moderna vaccine, somewhere between day 4 and day 32. Now, the World Health Organization points out appropriately that, in fact, there is no back end to the limit. So if you don't get vaccinated until day 35, day 40, there's no need to repeat an extra dose, and the vaccine will continue to be highly effective. What we don't want to do is give the second dose too early. So not before day 17 with Pfizer, not before day 24 with the Moderna vaccine. As far as we know, though, it is very important that both doses be received. Just as a reminder, the way a 2-dose series works, the first dose essentially says to your body, wake up and pay attention. And then the second dose says, remember this.
Thank you.
Mr. Arguello, any questions?
Dr. Alexander, before your second booster shot today, you were clean shaven, weren't you?
Very good. Yeah. No, it's actually been good so far. We're fine. I don't think. Adriana, Lynette, how did you do with your first dose?
I had a little bit of feeling tired, like about 24 hours after, and some headache, a little bit of feeling like gonna get sick, but never really got sick. So it was kind of like system starting to kick in.
I had headache, a little bit of arm soreness that progressed. It took about 24 hours later, I was back to normal, and nothing, a little bit of acetaminophen, some Tylenol took care of it quickly, and I was at work.
So let me draw a parallel for you. You know how you go on a good run and your legs are sore the next day, and you're sort of proud that you've had a good workout? This vaccine is giving your immune system a workout. It's just 2 workouts, and that's all you need.
Any other questions?
No, I'm good. You covered it all.
Thank you. I do want to make sure that we have recognized Dr. McCluskey, who's also on the line. I'm not sure if you wanted to add anything. I just want to make sure I give you space to have a conversation if you wanted to.
Hi, can you hear me okay? There we go.
Yes.
So just really quickly to talk a little bit about what's going on specifically in Osceola County related to vaccine. I think Dr. Alexander did an excellent job talking about just what we're experiencing with COVID, and that has been our trend here in our county. We continue to see an uptick and have. Our numbers kind of mimic what we saw earlier in the summer, so we've had some very high case counts and high positivity rates. If you watch the state's dashboard, we have been above that 10% positivity rate for the past several weeks. And hopefully, what EPI is expecting, we hope for is that plateau, that we are at peak. So we'll see that downward kind of trend start. One of the things that I know a lot of people have been asking us about also are the schools. And so to echo what Dr. Alexander has said, as we come back, what we have seen is large household outbreaks. So yes, we've seen increases of cases in children between the ages of 5 and 17, but that is not happening in the schools. And so we watched really closely over the break. We did see a decrease in cases, but that was overall related to probably people accessing testing less over the holidays. And so what we've seen when we come back is definitely kids that are testing positive, but it's because they've been hanging out with family and enjoying the holidays with family. And so luckily for us, what we did see is kids were starting to feel bad prior to school resuming. And so a lot of those kids didn't return. So that's kudos to the school for their education of their parents regarding not sending their kids to school when they're not feeling well. And they've got a very efficient process to identify kids who need to be tested and refer them. So kudos to the schools for that, because I think that really does help prevent the spread from a secondary standpoint. And we have seen very little of that. And so to Dr. Alexander's point, we're happy to say that because, again, when we go back, we didn't really know what to expect related to those kids returning, and we've had really positive outcomes. A little bit about COVID-19 vaccinations in Osceola County. We received 4,000 doses so far, and we have about 40 doses left, okay? Like us and a lot of other counties in the state, we did not and we have not received the vaccine supply, has not been as available. And so we are getting an allocation and expected to expend that as efficiently as possible. So as of today, we are, we don't have any. We did have a registration process in place, and that was, the interest in that was overwhelming, which was great. But we're currently waiting on additional vaccine to resume scheduling folks for an immunization. So we have information on our website. We have information put out on social media on the county's website that's updating individuals on the status of our registration and on scheduling. One of the things I think no one could have expected, I think we were looking at ramping up and scaling up to a large degree, and that just hasn't happened. So I would just say, I know there's been lots of calls here to the health department. It's not a matter of that we're not doing. What we have used, and we'll continue to do that. We have plans to start second dose vaccinations beginning the week of January the 26th. And what you'll see is the HHS has committed to making sure that we have that second dose. And so I think today there was a briefing out of Washington that talked about loosening that up a little bit. But if we provided the first dose, we are committing to doing the second dose. And a lot of folks have been concerned about that. But just to provide that reassurance is that we're going to start making those calls beginning tomorrow to schedule people for the second dose of vaccine. And as soon as we get additional allocation, we will be standing up an operation. We're going to relocate from our Fortune Road location to allow for better flow and minimize our wait time. So we'll be putting that out via social media and press release when we get a little closer to that. So that's really a little bit of an update on what we're seeing and doing here at the health department. from the standpoint of vaccines, and I'm happy to take any questions if you have any.
Thank you so much for being here and giving us an update. It is a great testament to the community partnership that we have. I appreciate it. Okay, so if we do not have any additional questions, I think at this point we're going to go ahead and recess for the, I'm sorry.
More of an update.
Oh.
Sorry about
thinking
that.
I got this chair thing going.
We just didn't want to have our partners waiting on the line for a long time, so we wanted to engage them first. I just want to say again, they have been so invaluable to us since June to inform our decision-making, guide us along the way, answer questions at the drop of a hat. And so we really do appreciate all three of them. The expertise and experience that they have brought to this effort really makes me sleep better at night, and I hope that you can feel the same way. We are also in conversation. I'm meeting with the team tomorrow to decide if we have a location that would potentially work to help them with that vaccination process. So we stand ready to partner in any way that we can just moving forward. I did want to again share with the board and the community, as we have said before, that our Return to Learn plan, our Ready, Set, Restart plan, was approved officially last week by the state. This is the plan that you adopted back in December when we first provided it. As we've talked about, there are requirements for specific interventions and assurances to help our students catch up. And we are preparing to do that based on our winter formative assessments. Because we do anticipate additional dollars flowing now from the second round of stimulus specifically to LEAs, dollars that can be allocated specifically for these types of things, as well as professional development to support teachers, PPE, those types of things. We are moving ahead with a very rich plan to try to get started on February the 1st. Our data does show us that the COVID slide is real. You know, our teachers, our students are all working very, very hard, but there has been an impact from the pandemic, lost learning, that we are absolutely committed to working to accelerate and expedite improvements from. So we're looking at extending our school day during the week on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, 2:30 to 4:30 at our high schools, or 3:20 to 4:30 at our elementary schools, and 7:20 to 9 a.m. at our K-8 schools. These are basically 2-hour commitments, but we're committed to paying teachers an additional 30 minutes to provide time for them to plan and assess the work that's being provided to students. This won't be the same old, same old. This isn't just like make up your homework. This is really looking at what are the targeted needs for students and how can we help to move them. In addition, we're planning to start Saturday academies, again, that very first weekend in February, 2-hour sessions at elementary, middle, and high school. We've committed to offering teachers 3 hours of compensation for that time at the contracted rate of $26.60. That is again by contract. But we really want to provide meaningful time for teachers to plan and assess and give feedback to students about what they're learning. We're also working hand in hand with our school nutrition services team and transportation to make sure that those things are not barriers for our students participating. We've also tasked our teams in our schools with looking at what other creative, outside of the box, blow up the box kinds of things can we think about to reach our kids. Are there places in the community that we need to go to them? Whether it's a community center, whether it's a park, whether it's the library. Let's get teachers and parents who are willing to make that commitment and go to where the kids are, because we cannot allow these kids to fall further behind without these targeted efforts. In addition, we are planning a much richer, much deeper summer camp than we've been able to offer before. We are currently looking at potentially sites that are combined to reach the most kids with transportation and food services, while also eliminating some of the challenges of having it at every school. As you know, we have an aggressive plan this summer for secure lobby renovations, and so that's playing into play in some of this. So these sites are currently proposed. That could change, but we will have those stimulus dollars dedicated to these specific purposes moving forward. I do want to celebrate that our principals, our APs, our counselors, our teachers have done just an amazing job helping to reach those children who are not being successful in the digital learning and bringing them back into the fold for face-to-face brick and mortar. We are currently at about 70% face-to-face, about 30% digital, with 1% or about 600 of our kids in Osceola Virtual School full-time. I want you to know that this has taken a tremendous amount of effort. If you remember, we started talking about this the first really week of December. December 1st, this board adopted the Ready, Set, Restart policy. And within that 2.5, 3-week period of time between then and winter break, and then a lot of time over winter break, they got kids scheduled and ready to begin classes on Monday when we returned on the 4th. There are certainly challenges with this in terms of the social distancing piece in the classrooms and particularly in common spaces like the cafeteria. We are continuing to make sure that masks are an important part, as you've heard before. They work to help prevent the spread of COVID and also catching COVID yourself. Hand sanitizing, washing of hands frequently, social distancing everywhere possible, making sure desks and rows are still facing one direction so they're not there. But at the same time, we do know that talking is important for kids to process their learning. So what can we do in collaborative structures that's still safe, but that helps to deeply engage students in learning? In addition, we have been approved over the break to offer a digital learning option for VPK. This was not something that we did first semester because we were concerned about equipment and also the effectiveness of the program. But as of today, we had already identified, I think, 40 students who want to come back into VPK in the digital world. This is not the best learning that we can provide them, but it is better than no learning at all, as we want to make sure we take advantage of these opportunities to engage kids and families and prepare kids for kindergarten in August. So those programs are starting tomorrow, and then over the course of the next week, they'll ramp up because there's some equipment that has to be distributed and those types of things. But Marianne Rodriguez is doing a fabulous job getting that launched with very little time to plan. As I said, we are tracking the interventions for our struggling learners, and today I again reminded all of our principals as we met about how important it is that we adhere to our safety protocols. Masks, social distancing wherever possible. There's no need for anybody to be out of supplies for hand sanitizer, soap in the bathrooms. We have prepared and committed to providing those things. We just have to make sure that we stay diligent. As Dr. Alexander mentioned, we're all tired. We're all tired of this, but we cannot relax at this stage of the game. We're too close to the end to not keep this fight going. And our pool testing did resume on Monday. We were at Toho High School in Westside. On Monday, we're again doing 2 schools per day so we can continue to monitor that asymptomatic spread in our schools. First semester, it was less than 1% that we found asymptomatic carriers of COVID through our pool testing process. I also talked to the principals today about sending out another message to parents and families and also to staff that this testing is available to perhaps encourage a few more people to do it, because as that positivity rate has been in that 10, 11, 12% over the course of the last 2 weeks, we want to make sure that nothing like that is happening in our schools. We have no evidence that it is, but we also need and want to be vigilant, as you have said. One of the things that we talked about before the break, and again, the board gave us indication that you wanted to continue to offer the 10 days of COVID leave for first-time quarantine uses, was what is actually the cost of that. Remember, this is not an actual dollar out. We were paying people anyway, but it is the value of leave that we've provided on top of regular leave that would be used and paid out at the end of employment with us. So currently, we've had 965 employees through December 31st, 2020, who took advantage of that COVID leave. It is no longer included in the federal assurances, but I do believe it is of value to our employees and important for us to continue, because we want to make sure that people understand, do not come to work if you are not feeling well or you know you've been exposed. We're going to help you through this process, but that quarantine period is so important to help prevent the spread. In addition to about the $1.8 million in leave that's been charged to this particular account, we've also paid about $500,000 extra in substitutes to cover COVID situations. But the good news is, with the latest round of the stimulus money, we haven't been given our specific allocation yet, but we have projections that we're looking at. We believe these are things that we can charge back to that stimulus dollar so that it won't negatively impact the school budget going forward and allow us to continue to offer this benefit to our staff. Also, just wanted to celebrate. We had some great news over the course of the last week. Our graduation rate went up again, 0.7%. But I think in light of COVID and school closures in the spring, I just couldn't be more proud of the work that all of our people have done. And this is a K-12 effort. The graduation journey starts in kindergarten. And we know that children who attend VPK are more apt to graduate on time than kids who don't. We know that kids who pass that third grade FSA are more apt to graduate than those who don't. So it's a full K-12 effort, but our high school folks really have that last leg of the race in terms of the relay, and they've done a fantastic job throughout this. Every one of our comprehensive and magnet high schools improved in their graduation rate considerably. We only had 2 schools that did not, Main Street and Zenith. I'm just going to share with the board our Main Street Charter School, which is a dropout prevention program, really struggled in the spring with this particular measure. If we took the Main Street numbers out of the equation, the district graduation rate would be 95%.
Wow.
I also want to show that our graduation rate has steadily improved, going back even to 2009-10, but just since 2015-16 from 82% to almost 91%. And I'm very pleased to share with you that we made some good, strong gains in terms of closing the achievement gaps in this figure with our Asian students, our Black students, our Hispanic students, our ELL students, and our females. Note the 2 subgroups that are not missing, that are missing from that. That's our boys, our males, and our ESE students. So we know that we still have work to do in ensuring that our young men, whether they're in kindergarten or high school, are feeling the importance of school and have the support that they need to be successful. Just a couple of other things to point out, because we always want to try to end on a positive note. As we've said, we've successfully welcomed back our students as we kicked off second semester. Sometimes we forget, but some of the children that we invited back on January the 4th had not been in a school setting since March. Some of those students, for example, particularly students transitioning to middle school, that 6th grade transition, went to middle school for the first time in January instead of August without their peers. And the same was true from 9th graders going to high schools. So again, I want to say to our teachers, our counselors, our school administrators, they've just been amazing about making sure that we welcome those students back, help them to feel comfortable, but also even our littlest learners who may have been doing kindergarten first semester at home in their pajamas and now have to stop and learn school routines and procedures all over again. So a lot of hard work going into those procedures. We've also seen the return of students face-to-face, and we have made great strides toward the elimination of simultaneous classes. The numbers are really powerful. We've reduced the number of those classes where teachers are trying to engage students simultaneously, face-to-face and digitally, by 495 classes. This is important because we know what a struggle that was to do it well for both our teachers as diligently as they tried, and also for our students to really make sure that we were getting to that deep level of engagement in that environment. So we're super proud of the scheduling work that, again, our administrators did over the break to help make that happen. Just a couple of other notes, all related to these things. As you know, we continue to monitor the state and local budget and economy and what's happening there. We had some concerns about local property tax collections because of the high rate of unemployment in our community. December tax collections were actually ahead of where they were a year ago by almost 2%. So that, we believe, is a trend in the right direction. Sales tax dollars in December locally also were down 19%, but keep in mind that in June that number was 51%. So it does continue to get better, and these numbers reflect November's calculations, not December's revenue, when we understand that tourism went higher. They are having another estimating conference this week. One of the most difficult things that we referenced in our impact fee workshop right now is how do you project moving forward? Student enrollment, the economy, how fast will the recovery be? Very, very difficult things that we're working forward to try to make good decisions. So we're going to continue to advocate for conservative approaches to this until we get a little bit more information, but at least things are trending in the right direction. I also wanted to share with you that one of the challenges that we faced last year was our SDOC students who needed to take a part-time class in the virtual world to meet a graduation requirement or for credit recovery or even acceleration. Many of them were using Florida Virtual School classes. This year, we've saved over $1.1 million in lost FTE by getting those students into part-time enrollment with Osceola Virtual School. So my hat is off to Mr. Hodges and his team in helping to achieve that. And that really is the end of my presentation, board. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I know it's a lot of information, but just feel like it's important to keep you and also our community informed as we move forward. Thank you, Dr. Pace. Board, any questions or comments?
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge as well the number of substitute teachers that have really stepped up. Because I remember, visiting different schools and just, how do you plan for how many students are in a classroom? You know what I mean? Like you said, when you switch from digital to virtual, it wasn't obligated on a certain deadline. They can switch at any time. But at the same token, anybody can get sick at any time. And I've been talking to many teachers that volunteers have really stepped up. And I think this year they can only limit where they can go or something like that. Instead of being substitute, countywide, they're choosing specific schools and they're falling in love with that school. They're like, okay, I'm here. And I heard a story just the other night of a principal calling somebody at 8 o'clock in the morning. Look, I'm even hearing staff. I'm hearing admin, going into the classroom. And I love hearing that because that's it's, hey, we're all in this together. I mean, I know that's not what you're doing anymore because now you still got to be an admin, you know what I mean? But that classroom still needs a student. They still need learning, and I appreciate that moving forward. The other thing that I wanted to do for the board to discuss is I did mention with Sarah Graver about looking at the CARES dollars because we have a new board. I didn't know how the original one was awarded, and what's the ending fund balance, what was left over for that to get appropriated, because we do know that the second one is coming. We just don't know how much, and we want to create a plan that kind of works together. And I think we mentioned that with you too, Dr. Pace, was that we talked about the sick leave, instead of coming from general revenue, if we can use some of those dollars to kind of help us out because we don't know what these people do. So I'm all for that conversation. But I just kind of want to, for our own board purposes, to see what we did in the past. I know Ms. Castillo is here and she already knows where the money's at, but we don't know, the rest of us, where we're at as far as the funding balance of the first CARES dollars.
Absolutely, and we anticipate that will be a part of our discussion with the board in February when we talk about budget. I will, under agenda modifications, suggest a date change for that workshop, moving it up instead of back. And we'll make sure that you have all the information that you need ahead of time that we can provide.
Yeah. Board? All right, thank you so much, Dr. Pace. That was informative. I just want you to know that I do appreciate everyone's flexibility and innovation during this time. I know that there are still a lot of concerns from parents. We hear them, we get the emails, and I don't want to minimize those in any way because they are absolutely valid and we understand. But I also see all the hard work that the district is doing to maintain some kind of normalcy and advancement. So thank you very much. All right, board. So looks like right now we're going to go ahead and recess for the board rulemaking workshop, and I will go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Boyd.
Good evening, board members. We're here tonight to share with you just a few changes. One you've seen before, and I'll start with the first new change is proposed for Rule 5.352, Student Enrollment and Education Decisions. It adds paragraph 4C to acknowledge court-ordered status of both parents as emergency contacts and permits each parent to add up to 3 persons of each parent's own choice to serve as emergency contacts. The second rule revision is not any change to what you approved before. For the purposes of transparency, this emergency rule change that occurred on your last meeting on December 15th is brought forward to the formal rulemaking process. This is Rule 6.913, sick leave donation. It is a restatement of what you voted on before. It revises paragraph 1 and 2 and adds paragraphs 3 and 4 to establish the Compassionate Sick Leave Program, which permits employees to donate sick leave to recipient employees to whom the donor employee is either related or unrelated. There are no changes to what you approved before. The remainder of the changes that are proposed for tonight are all from the Student Progression Plan. These changes revise the policy document to comply with recent changes in state law and to provide consistency with district precedent and current practice. On page 1, it revises the revision date to reflect January 26, 2021, which is the date of the public hearing, at which time we would ask for action. At tonight's board workshop, we are not asking for any action on any of these changes. They're just here for review to be read into the record for first reading. On page 3, there is an update to the acknowledgements page that changes the school board member names and school district administrators as well. On page 102, it establishes the eligibility criteria for the School District of Osceola County Academic Honors Diploma Program. And on page 114, it redirects the reader to the eligibility criteria for this program. These are the changes that are proposed for your consideration, and if you have any questions, we'll gladly take them at this time or in between now and the public hearing, which is scheduled for the 26th later this month. Thank you, board.
You guys, if the board has any questions, go ahead and.
So this is the first hearing, right? So it's gonna follow. No, this is the second hearing, right?
This is the board workshop, so it's really the first reading.
Okay.
You had the board review step, which is just an information piece that gives you this listing. And so this is the first reading of them formally for the public. And then on the 26th, we'll have the public hearing. I'll read these again for second reading. Then we'll give the public an opportunity for comment, and then you would actually take action on them formally at that date.
Now, the only exception was the sick leave, because that was an emergency hearing, or do we, because I noticed that it's still going through this process just in case. But the
Yes.
sick leave, I think we made it retroactive. Was that employee able
Yes,
to
sir.
use that?
Yes, sir. That stays in place. That's just an item that I add as partly my personality, just to make certain that we have been doubly certain to be transparent, so that if we ever did face a rules challenge, we can say not only did we take it through an emergency rulemaking process, we took it through the formal process as well. So there's no reason why people would not have due notice.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that,
Yes,
we're
sir.
not caught negatively in the loop. We're just basically being taken care of ourselves from both directions.
Yes, sir.
So move this to.
Oh, there's no action today.
This is the first reading.
No action tonight. We'll bring them back on the 26th reading.
Board, any other questions? Great, thank you, John.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, board. Thank you, Dr. Pace.
So we'll go ahead and continue with our scheduled meeting. For the next item on the agenda is any modifications? Do we have any agenda modifications? Yes.
Madam Chair, 16.01 was listed as an action item. There'll be no action tonight, but I will keep the item underlined.
Thank you. 16.01 is not an action item, it's just going to be informational. Board, any other agenda modifications? Dr. Pace?
Ms. Castillo, with your permission, I would like to request that under new business, we discuss potentially changing our schedule in February for the board meeting calendar.
We're just discussing like consent agenda items, right? Not the regular items, correct?
I can take any modifications.
I'll do the regular when we get to the regular. Kind of look at this little computer.
Is there anything we might need to pull to?
Yes,
you
the
wanna-
Sunbridge, yeah, on the consent, no, I'm okay with the consent. Just the
Okay.
regular items on the agenda, 1410 and 1411.
Okay, so what I can do is we can go ahead and vote on the regular agenda items individually. Would that help?
Yes, ma'am, yes.
Are we done with agenda modification?
Any other modification? Yes? Okay, so, perfect. So we are done with agenda modifications. And we have agreed to go ahead and vote on the regular facilities agenda individually instead of all at once, correct?
This is correct, Chair. Madam Chair, yes.
Thank you. Okay, so do we have a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion to approve the consent agenda by Mr. Melendez, a second by Mr. Bass. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so a vote passes 4-0. And that brings us to our public comment. And I do have 2 comments here. Just before we begin though, does anybody else want to go ahead and make a comment? I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak. If they want to, I have 2. All right, perfect. So we'll go ahead and start with Mr. Allen.
Larry Allen, 722 Babbitt, Osceola County Education Association President. I just want to read this letter that I got recently, today as a matter of fact. Pasco just settled our contract this year for both our instructional and their SRPs, which is our ESPs, our equivalent. Won't go into a lot of detail, but it's worth noting that all instructional will be brought up to $44,800. The district did kick in some extra money, and anyone making over that gets a full 3% base salary increase. All of our ESPs will get a 3% increase to base salary as well, if the salary increase does not put them at $10 an hour. Employees will be granted additional pay to meet the new minimum wage of $10 an hour, which will be made effective this year. All of these are retro, and in addition to that, the district also agreed to continue the federal 10-day COVID leave, but we negotiated an additional up to 20 paid admin leave days for repeated COVID-related events, quarantines, tests, etc. If they result in contact that happened at the work site. And all this takes place before an employee has to touch his personal accrued sick leave. And of course, this person's very proud of what they accomplished. No disrespect to Pasco, but their counterparts are not any smarter than our chief financial officer, our school superintendent, or our school board members. So what I'm saying is, I am sure that we can come up with some way to compensate our ESPs financially. The next thing I wanted to talk about, I've got time to look at that, is collaborative bargaining. Collaborative bargaining is where the district fields a team, the teachers union fields a team. We get together and we discuss issues from Osceola County, and we come up with solutions that work out for both sides. While ours is not as bad as some of the districts I've visited, but it's not where it should be as far as collaboration goes, in my estimation. And an example is the calendar that you all voted on at the last school board meeting. It was less give and take, and it was more like a state mandate that we all don't really like when the state imposes those things on us. Now, as parents, as educators, we teach our children, hey, if you make a mistake, say you're sorry. If you hurt somebody, you do your best to make it right. When you know better, you do better. And there is no dishonor in saying, you know what, I don't know if we got that right the first time around. Let's go back and talk about it. So I have hopes that we can discuss the 2 calendars you approved for the next 2 years, because we actually have time to, let's talk about it. Let's see if we can get it right so everybody's happy. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Laird, or Mr. Allen. No, the next comment is coming from Ms. April Isaacs.
Good evening, April Isaacs, 1911 Kings Point Boulevard, Kissimmee, Florida. I speak as a private citizen. I'm tired. I bet you guys are tired too. I'm tired not because I work long hours like you all, or not because I sometimes work with ungrateful children like you may have at home or actually work with. I'm tired because I was up last night watching the national championship with my father as my beloved Buckeyes got pummeled by Alabama. Don't say Roll Tide. But I made a promise. And because I promised, I was there for him until almost 1 o'clock this morning. Commiserating. This board, this school system has made a promise to its employees about insurance. You promised that there would be no changes in our plans, and you promised that the insurance would be, also have no change. And then your hands got tied with Advent, and I acknowledge that. But because you made a promise, your employees are now expecting that promise to be upheld. So we ask you to please work out your issues with Advent. And please, please, please help us with Aether/Evolutions, our insurance. I have lots of concerns that I can go over, but very quickly, just to name a few, why are our FSA, flexible spending accounts, being returned without any money in them and not letting employees know until they go to pay for drugs or they pay for a doctor's visit? Why is it on the back of our insurance cards it says that Aether/Evolutions will pay up to 150% of Medicare costs? But if I have a doctor who I've been with Advent and he decides to actually charge 200%, well, now I have to find a new doctor because of that? But what if that doctor saved my life? Or what if that doctor has been seeing me for a while and I'm feeling better and I'm performing better in the class? I had an employee that had an endocrinologist appointment, and she put it right on the last day that Advent was actually there and our old insurance was actually taking care of these costs on November 11th. And yet, 2 weeks ago, she got a bill for a test from Quest that the Advent doctor had ordered. And nobody knows who's going to pay for it. Who's going to pay for it? That doesn't seem big, but we have people here who are having diabetic patches that they can't seem to get to. They can't get the refills for because our insurance is now insisting that we do finger pricks. Walmart and Publix are the pharmacies that we're supposed to use. But have you ever tried to get a parking lot at Walmart in December? Why shouldn't we be allowed to use Walgreens or CVS at our leisure because it works better for us? I have a teacher who has multiple sclerosis. There's a doctor with Advent that's told her that she needs to be on this medication. It is an exuberant amount, I'll agree. But she feels better, and she's a better teacher, and she's not throwing up every morning. But we're having problems getting that medicine to her. I'm out of time, and I had so much more to say. But I beg you, I beseech you, please, whatever you have to do to satisfy and get the insurances to work with Advent, it needs to happen. Your employees are here working for you every day because they made a promise to those kids and to you. Please keep your promise to them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Isaacs. Board, if I may, I did skip over informational items. I know that you may have already looked over the information items on your agenda before the meeting, but I just wanted to recognize that those were there and to entertain any questions you may have. Okay, fantastic. Great, so let's go ahead and take a look at our regular agenda items. We'll go ahead and start with item 1401. Do I have a motion or discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, since I'll just ask the question once because there's a couple items that are talking about the HVAC testing. The staff want to kind of go over that, and when it says commissioning, I can interpret the word commissioning in different ways. Is it a study of a system that already exists, or how they're going to implement a new one into what's there?
So the commissioning services starts at the design phase, and it works through the construction phase, so that we can confirm that everything is proper in the design. All our opportunities are being optimized as far as HVAC commissioning, and also to confirm that all that has been incorporated in the construction phase. So that includes periodic reviews of the site, the job site, shop drawings, submittals, and other steps in that process. There is also a envelope commissioning, and that's to ensure that all the envelope components are proper. Moisture is one of our biggest culprits in buildings, and we want to ensure that we're keeping the water and the moisture out so we don't give rise to indoor air quality issues that ultimately become mold issues. And from the HVAC standpoint, conditioning our air is very important to ensure that we can create an environment that's conducive for teaching and learning in our schools. We have had challenges on those in past projects when I first arrived here, but this is something that is now in place to step up those efforts. We actually had test and balance and commissioning combined, where it was one firm doing both. And we found that that did not work well. There wasn't that accountability. So we separated that continuing contract. We now have standalone test and balance and standalone commissioning.
So is this done because we're going to install a new HVAC system, or is this done on a regular basis to make sure that the system is efficient?
Yeah, we do it in our new construction and also where we have renovation projects as well. And we find that even, where we have an existing system, we're doing that, and we're going through the course of the renovation, that we have opportunities to make the HVAC efficient. Just like a car, 5 to 8 years, it needs to be tuned up. Buildings are no different. The HVAC systems get out of tune, and there are various things that occur over time where we want to get everything dialed back in so that our systems are running at maximum efficiency, which contributes to not only thermal comfort, but our energy cost as well.
I guess the last question is, and again, the other ones are the same, so I'm asking now. I know we spoke before about the possibility of maybe looking at solar panels to power just the HVAC system itself. Because I know solar panels can get expensive when you try to do an entire array for the school. But since the HVAC system consumes so much energy, are we looking at the possibility of anytime we install new ones to kind of put those together?
That's an excellent question, sir. It actually starts with the building envelope and making it tighter, and then making it right sizing the HVAC. Buildings, for years and years, we've designed and constructed them to where they're very leaky. And that is an initiative that we have really ramped up here in Osceola schools. And it's called High Performance Building Criteria. And the ultimate goal of it is to drive down the EUI, energy use intensity. So for a traditional building, EUIs are anywhere from 55 to 68. We're getting our EUIs down as low as 16, and making those buildings more efficient, and that's for lifetime savings of that building.
That's my last question.
Thank you, Mr. Melendez. Board, any other questions?
Second.
I have a motion to approve by Mr. Bass, a second by Mr. Melendez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, vote passes 4-0. Next item is going to be 1401. I'm sorry, I apologize, 1402. Have a motion by Mr. Melendez, second by Mr. Bass. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. 1403.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bass, second by Mr. Melendez. All those in favor? Aye. Vote passes 4-0. 1404.
Motion approved 1404. Yeah, they're both kitchen renovations.
All right, I have a motion to approve by Mr. Melendez, second by Mr. Arguello. All those in favor? Aye. 4-0. Vote passes 4-0. 1405.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve by Mr. Melendez,
Second.
second by Mr. Bass. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Vote passes 4-0. 1406.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve by Mr. Melendez, second by Mr. Bass. All those in favor?
Consolidate this, you know.
We could have, but I think that
That's
there
all
was a
right. No,
board
I-
member who wanted to do
No,
them
I know.
individually.
I
I
know.
wanted to honor that.
That's okay.
All right, vote passes, I'm sorry, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, vote passes 4-0. 1407,
Motion approved.
motion to approve by Mr. Melendez,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Arguello. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Vote passes 4-0. We're almost there, guys. 1408,
I move to approve 1408.
motion to approve by Mr. Bass,
Second.
second by Mr.
Well,
Melendez.
second with discussion on this one, so if the
Sure.
drainage repairs, then it's fixed, right? So if there's not gonna be any issues after that, or any future amendments in the future to get it up to par?
Yes, sir. There's been substantial improvements to the football field. It started with the soils, the existing soils. They were highly organic and they did not percolate well. It's how the school was originally constructed. It's reminiscent of soils in that general area. So what we did is we excavated out those soils down to 2 feet, hauled in a highly permeable draining sand. And in addition, we installed a underdrain system. It's tied to the storm system so that the field will perform well over the life of that field.
And the maintenance costs of that should be negligible, correct?
It should substantially help with the maintenance. Maintenance was having a challenge with getting the storm system to operate correctly. In addition to the field project, we also completed some storm system improvements, cleaned the storm system as well from its siltation. So I believe that our maintenance department is happy that that has taken place.
I believe, there wasn't a motion.
Mr. Clinch, does that mean that the Eagles are gonna start winning more football games?
I think so, sir.
Dr. Evans?
Yes, I had a motion by Mr. Bass and a second by Mr. Melendez. So all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so motion passes 4-0. 1410,
9.
1409,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
I have a question here.
Clearly there's okay, Mr. Arguello, you have a question.
Is there, I didn't see in this, in 1409 that we were paying, so they were donating that line? Is this Tupperware that's donating 2.9 acres?
I'm gonna ask Mr. Clinch to make sure that we clarify. I believe that the Tupperware entity is donating land. We are going to pay for the cost of the road, and then we will be reimbursed half of that cost over time as development comes in. So our cost right now would be $4 million. Eventually, we would get half of that back over time from development as it comes in. But the real value for this for us is to be able to move bus traffic off of the one entrance to the OXA school. That helps us to comply with SREF and is also a safety piece. So.
Yeah, and I have a follow-up question for that one as well. Because I understand that OXA is gonna get renovated down the line. I'm not exactly sure when it is. Are they gonna do a buffer? Because from what I read in this item, that they're building a bunch of apartment complexes, on that access road. So is there gonna be some kind of, fence line or tree line or some kind of buffer between between the apartment complex that's gonna get planned to get built in the future and the comprehensive renovation that we're planning?
Security fencing is always a part of our design process. We are just at the very initial stages of starting to go down that direction. We didn't want to move forward with design work until we had this agreement worked out, because that bus loop area is a huge piece of how then the rest of the property shapes up.
Okay, so I just wanna make sure that that's taken.
And certainly the design will come back to the board at workshop settings for your input as we move through the process.
Thank you, Dr. Pace. Is there a motion? I'm not keeping track, I'm sorry.
No motion.
Okay, I motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Melendez, second by Mr. Arguello. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. 1410.
Yes, this was the issue that I was talking earlier with the attorney and also spoke with Dr. Pace. Dr. Pace, do you want to share? I just want to give you that opportunity. This is the one with Sunbridge, where it's the issue that I had was that it's a development piece that's coming online that is a portion in Orange County and some of it in Osceola County. And then my concern was that only Osceola County, we're only collecting the impact fees. We're paying for it 100% through the Osceola portion of the development. And I wanted to try to see if maybe we can get Orange County School Board to contribute based on the proportionality of the units that are there. And so Dr. Pace had mentioned to me, which is a good point, that even though we may not be able to collect the impact fee from Orange County, we're still gonna collect the FTE dollars when they're there. But the issue is that we still gotta build the school before they get there. And I'm not trying to be aggressive and say, okay, I want Lake Nona to help pay for it. Only the development itself that's getting platted. Because I know there's gonna be future plats that's gonna happen. And so that is really my concern, is that Sunbridge is literally being built on 2 counties, and yet we're the ones that are paying for the K-8 100%. And so I want to be able to try to work out a deal. And I did speak with the commissioner from Orange County, and his name is Jim Gray, and he told me that they had agreements like this before in the past. It's transportation related, like the roads on Boggy Creek and Narcoossee go into both. And so this isn't something that I'm bringing up for the first time. There is precedence of the 2 counties working together. But I just want to make clear, it's not an issue with the developer. It has nothing to do with the developer can develop wherever they want. It's up to us as school board entity talking to another school board entity to kind of as a professional courtesy and say, hey, look, this development, 200 houses, I don't know what the exact number is, but 200 of those houses are in your county, you're collecting the impact fee, and you don't get to build the school. We have to build the school. And, now we do let them in, and we do collect the FTE, but sometimes you don't know when that's gonna happen. You know what I mean? Initially, we gotta build the school right away.
Those students on the Orange County side will go.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yes.
Go to the Osceola County.
Hold on,
Apologies.
I apologize not to interrupt. I do think Ms. Rondo, were you going to answer some of the questions that,
If I'm hearing correctly,
okay.
so, all of the homes in that mitigation are built solely in Osceola County, no portion in Orange County, and that school was mitigated on the impact of the homes being built in Osceola County only. So any homes being built in Orange County would be zoned to an Orange County school, and they've totally mitigated the impacts for the Osceola County portion of that development.
Dr. Pace has.
If I could just provide some clarity though to the board and also to the community, I believe it was 2 years ago, someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Statutory guidance was changed at the state level to allow choice across district boundaries. So there are currently students who live in Osceola County who may elect to go to school in Orange or Polk or Indian River, depending on, where they live. And as long as the school has capacity, then the district allows that individual to come in. It does not impact fee collection. That's based on where a home is permitted. And as you mentioned, Mr. Melendez, the FTE follows the child. We also have students who are living in Polk County and attending a school in our Poinciana Osceola community. We have some students, for example, who live in Lake Nona who've chosen instead to go to Tohopokalega High School. So crossing of boundaries is really not a huge impact to our district, and what we have found over time is that it tends to balance, just like choice within our district. Some students choose to choice out of St. Cloud to go to Harmony. Some students choose to go from Harmony to St. Cloud, and we've been able to work that out because operationally, the FTE follows the child. The impact fees, the capacity issues are real, but we have the authority to limit capacity in a school if we choose to do so. We have just taken the stance so far that if we have the capacity, we'll welcome kids who want to come in because we take advantage of their FTE dollars to enrich our school population.
God bless you, whoever's needs like
Mm-hmm. Mr. Coffenbacher,
I think it's that Dr. Pace is hitting on a point. I think you want to monitor it, and if you start seeing the balances hit us more, then you have to address it. I think then you sit down. But if it's balancing out, as Dr. Pace is saying, then I think we're going to get into, we can sit with Orange County and with the school board there and say, hey, look, we'd like to do this, but let's assume
they're getting 100 kids from us and we're getting 100 kids from them. So I think it's a great issue you're raising. I think what you have to do is look at those numbers and say, are we getting disproportionately a burden on us? And then I think you take that. So it's hard to figure it out without seeing what the numbers are.
Yeah, and I think there's two distinguishing factors that are weighing on my mind, is that I understand, like, if two communities are already there, they kind of move back and forth, but this one's getting built, you know, and that's the whole idea of being pre-planned. And according to what we just heard from Rhonda, is if Orange County is mitigating their part, I would hate to see we build a K8, they build a K8 right across the street. That doesn't help either, you know what I mean? It's like, we could have saved them money. I mean, I know we don't care too much about Orange County, but that's what, to me, what interlocal agreements and being nice kind of come together, you know what I mean? Because this Sunbridge is going to be in Orange County and it's going to be in Osceola. They're going to be marketed as one, because I even visited the website and it said Sunbridge. It doesn't say Sunbridge Osceola, Sunbridge Orange. You know, those political divisions are created for us, not the people that live there. And so to me, again, I'm okay with moving forward with this motion, but I would like to see that, because we still got to pay for it. So it has nothing to do with, you know, the appraised value and us getting the dedicated site or the location of the site. But I would like to see staff at least engage in conversation with Orange County and say, hey, you know, can they contribute? You know what I mean? Now, if they don't contribute, that's another story. But I think we should be fighting to keep as much as we can, because we know it's going to come over. You know what I mean? It's like if somebody lives in Sunbridge, and even though they may, you know what I mean, if they live in Sunbridge Orange, I can't see them, you know, especially we want their FTE dollars to come. We're not going to deny them to come, you know, but I just know that they're coming, and I just have a little bit of heartache that when we're building a new community, that we're still paying for it 100%.
They may be having the same conversation, because we may have students over here that will migrate to Orange County while they're building their school. So I would think statistically it would balance out. I mean, there's probably going, believe it or not, there's probably going to be more wanting to go to that zip code in Orange County than that Orange County coming to Osceola, because people get a little bit biased about Osceola versus.
Our schools are better.
I believe that.
They are.
I believe that, but I see that with the Lake Nona, you know, Highway 15 area. But you're right.
But it sounds like the school will be built zoned for Osceola County. So any student that wants to choice into I'm going to call it the summer school, they have to choice in, right? So it's not like we have to build. It's just like with any other school. I know kids that go to OXA from Orange County. You know what I mean? So I think it's zoned for Osceola County. It's not shared by the two counties. So I guess
when they say zoned, I mean, okay, I'm going to your line of thought. No, I like your line of thought, actually. So you say you're zoned for Osceola, but let's say you're the person and you live in Orange, and that school is right there.
You have to choice in.
Yeah, you're going to choice in, but we're not going to deny you, because the developer is saying, hey, this is Sunbridge. They're not thinking like us. I mean, we're a little bit smarter than the average parent, because we see this all the time. But when you see an average parent, though, they're thinking, hey, I'm buying Sunbridge. I'm not thinking I have to zone. They're thinking I'm going to go to that school right then and there. So they're going to request to go there, and we're not going to deny them, because
we can if we don't have.
I mean, can we deny them? I thought the state statute said we can't deny them anymore.
As long as we have capacity.
If we don't have capacity, we can deny them. That if we fill that school up with Osceola students, then they can't come. Just like if they fill up their school, our kids can't go to that, whatever school it's full. It's a capacity issue.
Okay, and so then I guess the last question then, because I'm kind of putting it together now. It's like a puzzle. And so what you were saying then, Rhonda, is, well, I don't know if the Sunbridge development, I wasn't here on the board before that, then are the initial phases in Osceola County first, and then Orange County phases are like, because I saw on the map, there's like phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So is Orange County going to get built at the same time as Osceola, or is Osceola portions going to get filled out and then they're going to build in Orange County later?
I do not know Orange County's build out. I can tell you the first phase is their 55 plus, which has already started coming out of the ground, and they're selling the units, and then they will move forward into these. So this is only one of two sites that they will be large enough to generate, but they have only done enough conceptual planning for us to pick the first site.
So they will generate enough homes in Osceola County to warrant a second K-8 site. So I'm definitely not concerned for overbuilding in the area and having to make room for Orange County because the size of their development warranted 2 dedicated sites long-term in Osceola.
What's the capacity at Watusi? Watusi's not too far away.
They're over capacity right now with portables, and if I'm not mistaken, they're also co-teaching.
So
So
they can
they're
alleviate a little
they're
bit.
in need of relief, yes, sir. And this school will provide that relief.
And I guess the last thing has to do with the actual site itself. So I'm glad staff is really answering these questions. Then I saw the map and it was kind of hard to figure out where it was because they show you like it's not the scale. They show this big old thing and they show the school really small. And I'm like, where does it go? Then I kind of pieced it together and I spoke with Mr. Clinch earlier. And it's right next to a canal. And I was like, oh, I'm like, man. So I'm like, I'm worried about, possible flooding issues and things like that, being right next to, because I think that's the canal that connects the 2 lakes, right? And I don't know what the potential for flooding is when you're in that zone.
I can tell you there was much debate over the site. We worked a little more than 2 years with Osceola County. The site moved more than once, and after input from facilities and the county. And if I'm not mistaken, there will actually be a pedestrian walk over that to connect the 2 different sites. So any type of flooding will all be addressed through subfloor water management. So, all necessary design would be in process for that.
Question, Madam Chair.
Yes, and then Mr. Argola has a question as well.
Go ahead, Mr. Argola, I'll wait.
Well, I just have 2 questions. One, Dr. Pace, do you know how many kids we will be talking about? Like, just your best guess. Is it like, are we talking about 100 kids or are we talking about like 20 kids that we potentially choice into our schools? Just so that I have an idea of a number.
Dr. Rafalski says that she does have the numbers from Orange. I don't have those with me tonight. But the Florida statute that we're talking about is 1.1002.31, 2017-18, and that was the controlled open enrollment statute. So I can get that information to you about how many out-of-county students we currently serve and how many of our students also go out of county.
But your best, or your opinion at this point is that we usually benefit from the arrangement. Okay. And 2, did you have like a proposal? What you're seeking, Mr. Melendez? Is it like that Orange County chip in?
Like for instance, I forgot the exact number, but let's say there's 1,000 proposed units, right? Let's say 800 are in Osceola, 200 are in Orange. I was just proposing that 20%, be attributed from Orange County that we can ask them to contribute. So
And that they do not build a school there instead across the street?
Yeah, they don't have to build at least another K-8. I mean, they can build some, depending on.
We do have a similar agreement with that in the Four Corners area for the charter school there is about the 4 lakes. But what I believe I heard Ms. Blake say is that this particular school, the school will be designed and enrollment projections will be made for the homes in Osceola County.
So if gets
It
cool,
will not
theoretically,
include
we're not
the
gonna have
impact
too
of
many
Orange
hundred
County
homes.
homes at this time. They will have their own dedicated sites. That does not mean that Orange County kids may not elect a choice. But if the school is full with Osceola County students, and that's the way it'll be designed to be built, that's the way the impact fee calculations will be projected for that particular area, are the homes in Osceola County and the student generation rates that would come from those homes, then we wouldn't have to invite anybody in. We would only do that if we've already built the school based on the impact fee calculations and projections previously, and 10 homes had 2 kids instead of 3 kids, and we had some kids who wanted to come over. Does that make sense? And like I said, it typically has balanced.
And I'm just pre-planning out loud ahead of time, just trying to do smart growth, because they always go in phases. A development like this never happens. So maybe the first 2 phases are Osceola, we're 50% capacity. That 3rd phase is in Orange. Then we accept all those Orange kids in, and then the 4th phase comes in. We're not gonna kick out the Orange kids that are already there, right? So they're already gonna kind of fill it. So ideally, the fill plan comes all phases from Osceola to fill it, but in reality, it's gonna probably be part of Orange, part of whatever, where we accept those students in, and then when it's all said and done, we don't have that 90-10 ratio. We actually have like a 70-30 ratio. But I'm just talking about it out loud, guys. I'm just trying to save us money. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to save, get as much money as I can from another county. You know what I mean? the board's direction.
Billy's
Let's
gonna
see what else.
apologize because, you know, Sunbridge is something that's gonna be, it's really unique because Sunbridge at the end, it's gonna make Lake Nona look like a postage stamp. I mean, we're talking, when I say massive, it's beyond massive. And it does cross over into 2 counties. So I'm sure down the road, there's going to be some, you know, agreements that we're gonna have to be made across the lines.
At the very minimum, can we have staff look at the whole plan? I mean, I'm okay with this point and move forward, but like, if it is gonna be that massive, that we just do a little bit of coordination, like Orange County isn't some stranger, you know what I mean? Like, we actually speak with the county and try to say, okay, where do you wanna place your school? Where do you wanna place our school?
Build a wall.
Let's, you know, yeah, let's do the opposite of the wall. Exactly. That's kind of where we're talking about collaborative environment over there with the teachers unions. I wanna have a collaborative environment with our fellow, you know, jurisdictions as well, and share some of those costs, or at least if we don't share, then we know, okay, where the definite, you know, separation is, and that way nobody feels like they got slighted, so to speak.
Madam Chair, just for the benefit of the board, on a positive note, we have built into this agreement what was missing in the Celebration Isle agreement, meaning once you approve, due diligence will commence on the site if we identify immediately an issue that can't be resolved, then they have to come up with another site for us. But we're not gonna sit back and find out.
Right, years down the line.
Happened to us before, so staff did a good job working through this.
Okay, I just need to kind of understand where the board is and get some direction. It sounds like you are in favor. Is there anybody who might not be in favor of approving this today based on the information that we have received from Ms. Blake?
Yeah, I'm in favor. I'm satisfied with staff's conversation or responses, but I'm open-minded to what the board says too. You know, what I mean, I'm not.
You just wanna keep your radar on, and I understand that.
Mr. Well?
I mean, I'm inclined to approve. I mean, we can send the carrier pigeon all the way to Orange County, right, and find out what they're doing.
Okay, so if I can entertain a motion, please, I don't have a.
Okay, I motion to approve item number 1411 as submitted, with the caveat that staff has a discussion with
1410.
Orange County School Board as far as, you know, the full master plan and talking about the sharing of impact fees for potential site locations. But that's not impacting this one, that's talking about the future sites.
If I may clarify, I think some of that conversation that you want staff to have will be with Tavistock. They've been a tremendous partner so far in looking at the full master plan for the development. And then we'll come back to the board if we want to seek direction about where we think there's a potential crossover of impact. Does that sound reasonable?
I'll second that motion.
Perfect, I have a motion from Mr. Melendez and a second from Mr. Arguello. All those in favor?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
could I clarify? Because he made a motion, Dr. Pace made a recommended thing, I just want the record to reflect your motion is not incorporate Dr. Pace.
That is correct.
Perfect.
But we could keep moving forward without the condition of staff speaking. So staff has direction to go ahead and move forward with site inspections and this and that. But, you know, simultaneously, on the side, staff has to.
So I believe that we have approved.
Yeah, voted.
4-0. Okay, and finally 411, do I have a motion to approve item 411? Sorry, 1411.
Yeah, the only item, the issue I have is it says if the appraised value of the real property exceeds a certain amount. Traditionally in real estate, you know, he's the appraiser, I'm a broker. And whenever an appraised value comes above an agreed amount, it is what it is. You know, the buyer wins. You know, you don't adjust the price. You know what I mean? Now, if the price is lower and it doesn't appraise, then you kind of go back to the bargaining table and you say, hey, wait a second, it didn't appraise. So I did speak with the seller though, and I did speak to Mr. Newman, and he did mention that I'm selling it for 10 million, that's it. If it goes to 11 million, he's not gonna include that in there. So I just wanna make sure that the language is possibly amended in that motion, that the appraised value, only is impacted if it's down, not up. If
I
it's
think
up,
they've had multiple appraisals, from what I understood, before we came onto this board, and I believe like three of them, did they have 3 or 4 of them, and I think all of them were above the purchase price. But I understand.
I just wanna let them know that whatever that amount is, if it's over, we're not gonna be on the
Yeah,
hook
because
to
I
pay
spoke with the
the
Newmans
higher
as well,
price.
and they said the exact same thing. you said.
Exactly, I don't want that to be misinterpreted, that we are paying 10 million as the maximum price.
Right.
Ms. Blake?
Sorry, Ray. The agreement is written so that the maximum payout will be $10 million, but it did have a minimum that the appraisals had to come in for. The Newman family could back away from the deal. So we know at this point, the appraisals are gonna come in higher than their minimum to back away. And we all know as time has gone, the property has increased in value and it will come in at over 10 million, but it is written that 10 million is the final payout price.
Okay, I just wanna
we
make sure
find it
that's all, that language.
We're just doing these
Okay.
I motion approved, the item as submitted, as long as that document, as long as the property value exceeds the stricken.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Melendez, a second by Mr. Bass. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you. Okay, so this brings us over to Superintendent Recommendations. Dr. Pace?
Item 15.01, interlocal agreement between Osceola County, Florida and the School Board of Osceola County that would allow us to provide buses for use during an emergency evacuation. The Osceola County Jail would be responsible for driving and actually transporting the inmates. This would just be the use of our capital equipment, and we would be responsible for any damages or loss for any buses.
Are they?
Second with discussion.
Okay.
Would that also include Dr. Pace maintenance involved with this?
I wrote the agreement. We charge them for everything.
Yeah, I didn't see like this, I saw some of it was called out, some of it wasn't, but it did say all. I just wanted to make sure that we're not giving the county.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Melendez, second by Mr. Bass. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. And Dr. Pace, we also have 15.02.
Yes, this is again an interlocal agreement between Osceola County, the City of St. Cloud, the City of Kissimmee, the School Board, the Education Foundation, and the Early Learning Coalition as it relates to Osceola Reads. 5 years ago, the board and the community came together as an effort to promote early literacy and improve kindergarten readiness rates. The school district's investment at that time was for the software purchase of Footsteps to Brilliance, which is a county-wide, community-based license that we now own into perpetuity. With that, the county and the cities came alongside to promote Osceola Reads through marketing efforts and other combined community initiatives to help advance this concept of early literacy and the importance of early literacy to help our students be successful learners all along the way. This takes us one step further in that we are now also incorporating our partnership with the Early Learning Coalition. The school board's financial investment is simply the staff time that we already put into place to promote early learning activities through, for example, our Osceola Reads bus and other partnership activities. And then the county and the two cities are helping to fund marketing programs, and the Education Foundation and Early Learning Coalition are coming alongside to help coordinate this effort. But it really, I think, goes back to the fact that we want Osceola Reads to be not just a school district initiative, but to be truly a community initiative, saying that Osceola County, the City of St. Cloud, the City of Kissimmee, the school board, the Early Learning Coalition, and the foundation all are going to pledge to work together to send this important message on a consistent basis to parents throughout our community, 0 to 5.
Motion approved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Melendez, a second by Mr. Arguello. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you, board. We do have attorney's reports. Board, remember that we did pull this item as an action item. However, Mr. Kroppenbacher will give us an update. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Members of the board, on what we all refer to as the Bronson property. The county has, Dave Tomac has again advised our staff in writing that as currently configured, the property is vested and the donation of the school site is one of the conditions of approval for that. I'm advising you that Dr. Pace, in consultation with me and staff, we are not taking a position in opposition to that. The county specifically asked the staff, if you don't want it, give us a letter saying you don't want it. We're not prepared to do that, okay? That is, I'm saying that is based on how it is currently configured. I will report back, I think there'll be more developments, and I'll report back to you at the next meeting regarding this matter. Okay. You can all talk with me, call me if you have any questions. Number 2, over the holidays, if you recall, we had what I would call some issues with civility speakers. And the chairman asked me to look at stuff, so I've been to a lot of government meetings. I want to really put a shout out to Dr. Pace's staff with Dana for helping. This is a draft meeting guide that would be on the table for the public when they come in, which you'll see would explain how you all operate it, right? With what I call guidelines for conduct, etc. Right? Then there is a proposed revised sign-in sheet that would specifically identify if they want to talk on an item not on the agenda or on the agenda, because you'd wait if they wanted to talk till the agenda item came up, and they identify, have you spoken to any staff before you came here? Because I've been in enough meetings where somebody comes in and has never talked to the superintendent, anyone, and just attacks everyone, and it's like, if you had taken the time to talk, you probably would have not had an issue. You'll see it. I'm giving it to you tonight. And please get back with Dr. Pace. If you all have any suggested revision, there's no pride of authorship on this. It's how do we kind of help the public understand us more, and it's a sense of decorum of how we act in these meetings. And if you see anything you want tweaked, just let Dr. Pace know, or me, okay, and I'll pass those out to you.
Thank you. Great idea.
Good idea, thank you.
Thank you very much. Does that conclude your comments?
I'm envisioning following the next meeting, we'll have an executive session on the Cigna litigation, et cetera, but I'll report back at that next meeting.
Thank you, Frank. Okay, so do we have any unfinished business? I don't have any on the agenda. Okay, new business, Dr. Pace?
Just a suggestion and seeking feedback from the board. We currently have on our board meeting calendar on February the 2nd at 3 o'clock a legislative update. Because we've already had our legislative workshop in December, we met with our legislative delegation last week, and the session will not begin until March. We weren't sure that you would have items to bring forward. Our lobbyists are available if you want them here. We also have on the agenda for February the 16th at 3 o'clock a workshop on the budget and health services plan and the employee health center. Because of the complexity of our health services plan and the employee health center operation, I would like to recommend with the board that we consider moving the budget workshop to February the 2nd, along with an opportunity for us to give you an update on procurement procedures in the construction management world. Some board members had asked for that previously. Postpone the legislative update until we get into the session and there's actually information to share that you want to bring forward, and then dedicate the whole 2 hours on the 16th to the health services plan and employee health center, so that we can continue to address your questions, the community's questions, our employees' questions about those health opportunities. Just a suggestion, and I will take feedback from the board.
I'm in favor of that. Any board, any comments, discussion?
It's something we have to vote on, or just?
No, I just need your feedback.
Yep, I'm good with it.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so then we'll move forward with canceling the legislative workshop and instead making that about the budget and procurement, including the CARES Act dollars, Mr. Melendez. And then we'll tell our team on the health services group to be prepared for 2 hours on the 16th. Thank you for that consideration, I appreciate it. And just a reminder, we have executive session upstairs for the purposes of labor negotiations immediately following the meeting.
Thank you. So before we recess, we do not have our student representative here, so I'm gonna
Soccer.
Soccer? Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and recess our meeting and we will go ahead and adjourn upstairs during our executive session. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.